it will actually open up like a virtual desktop. It'll, in his little ChatGPT world, go in, open up his laptop, open a browser, and actually start clicking around and doing things for you. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'll show you what's actually showing up on my screen as I do this. And you can see it's this little robot that literally has a browser open. Right now, it's on RBC Royal Bank, and it's using its affordability calculator. Like, it's literally going out and doing that. And if that's not enough, it went and just clicked the Ratehub one, right? So it's actually going through, and now, yeah, on Ratehub, it's looking through, it's putting in different pieces of information that I told it about, and it's actually taking that information back and understanding what it can actually afford. So it's not just research anymore. It's actually able to go and interact with these types of tools to be able to do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Tech Talks. Today, we're going to talk about ChatGPT's new feature, Agent Mode. It's exciting. It's something that I think a lot of people in very high up tech circles are talking about, this idea of agentic AI. And if you hadn't heard of that term before, don't worry. We're going to go through, first of all, what that even means, but go through a live example. And I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to use this agent mode, and I'm pretend I'm a home buyer, first-time home buyer, and I need help with my financing. And we're going to see how the agent, the AI agent, goes through and does that. And then we'll talk a little bit about, hey, what does this AI agent actually mean for a mortgage agent? So we cover all that and more in this one. It's a very screen share heavy. I apologize again if you're just listening, but I do my best to kind of talk through it. And it's a very, very cool one. I learned a lot, and I think you will too. See you on the other side. Okay, so let's get into it here. So this is an exciting episode. I'm personally excited for it because I think I'm going to learn a lot along the way. What we're going to talk about today is agentic mode in ChatGPT. So I'm going to get into that. What does, maybe if some people aren't familiar with that term, agentic mode, what does that actually mean? Some of the theory behind it, some of the origins of all of this, kind of maybe a little bit the more theory. But what I actually want to do first is I actually want to set it up in ChatGPT and hit go, because I think it's going to take a little bit to actually kind of think and do its thing. So the long story short is, with this agent mode, it's going to be able to do a lot more for me. And I'll get into that in just a second, what I mean. And so with that, I'm able to ask it a lot more, ask a lot more complicated things that can actually, as ChatGPT puts it in a second, will bridge from your research into actual action. Okay, so that's really kind of the punchline, and that's the exciting thing, where it's like, hey, historically, ChatGPT maybe just used it to do some research, maybe a little bit of brainstorming, I don't know. Now we're bridging that gap to actually doing action, actually doing things for me on my behalf. So again, we'll get into a little bit, maybe the more theory of it in just a second, but I wanted to just quickly show you this prompt and how I did it and how I'm thinking about this agentic mode. So I've opened up ChatGPT here. You can see here, basically, with this, I put in kind of a made up thing here, right? Hey, me and my wife are looking to move out of our condo and buy somewhere with a bit more space. So far, kind of the same. We'd love to stay in the city of Toronto, but not sure if we can afford what we can afford. Can you do some research to first understand how much we can actually afford in terms of home price? And based on this, where we should search? I mean, implicitly, I'm saying kind of area. And then from there, can you line up appointments with someone who is a real estate expert in the area, as well as someone who can help with financing? So that is kind of that next point, right? Where I'm saying, hey, don't just research it, but actually help me line up these types of appointments. So I'm going to hit go. We're going to see what happens. Maybe I'll just stop sharing for just a second. And yeah, sure enough, it's kind of thinking. And oh, do you know what? I missed the most important thing. I didn't do agent mode. So I'm just going to actually pause this for 1 second, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, yeah, so very important thing to do, which I forgot to do, is that when you're actually doing this, and I think this is still just a premium feature, I can't be certain, but when you're doing it, you type it all in, and then under tools here, there's a bunch of things, deep research I've always loved, create image, there's some other things here, but now there's this new agent mode. So I'll click that, and then you can see, first of all, starting to get a little bit more advanced. I can do a web search, but I can also connect my box, right? So if I have some files there, or Dropbox. So if I want to start doing things like, hey, take this file and maybe rejig it or use it as a reference, right? You can start doing these things a lot more. But I'm just going to say web, and we're going to hit send. So now I'll stop sharing. And yeah, sure enough, it's thinking. And one of the things that come up right there, I don't know if you saw on the screen share, it says setting up desktop. So before I again get into what actually means set up my desktop, it came back and actually has some questions. So this is another difference. I'm going and saying, hey, I need a little bit of help. And before it goes and does that, it'll actually ask me some questions, right? And I could just hit continue, just means just go based on that original thing. But it's also looking at this, right? Hey, I'll need some basic financial details like your combined annual income. So let's just put it in combined income, 200 grand, whatever. Down payment, we have maybe 100K saved, no major debts, and then everything else looks good. So let's just give. So again, very interesting, right? It's starting to understand things at a deeper level that, hey, if I'm going to go and do all this stuff, I need a little bit more first. So I put that in. And so I've kind of had a couple false starts here. Now it's going, now it's thinking, now it's doing it. And what it said is I'm firing up the desktop. So what it's doing is that in this agent mode, the big difference is not only will it go out and do a bunch of stuff for you, it will actually open up like a virtual desktop. It'll, in his little ChatGPT world, go in, open up his laptop, open a browser, and actually start clicking around and doing things for you. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'll show you what's actually showing up on my screen as I do this. And you can see it's this little robot that literally has a browser open. Right now it's on RBC Royal Bank, and it's using its affordability calculator. Like it's literally going out and doing that. And if that's not enough, it went and just clicked the Ratehub one, right? So it's actually going through, and now, on Ratehub, it's looking through, it's putting in different pieces of information that I told it about. And it's actually taking that information back and understanding what it can actually afford. So it's not just research anymore. It's actually able to go and interact with these types of tools to be able to do it. So it's really interesting. This is just kind of going in the background. Maybe I'll just keep it going if anybody's watching, just to kind of, enjoy this show, so to speak, as I kind of talk about, a couple of these other things. And so, a couple of these other things, what am I talking about? So this agent mode, let's go back to maybe some of the more theory things like that, which is, hey, what does that even mean, agent mode? Well, this is what a lot of people kind of in the tech world are getting really excited about. I think that, and look here, it's actually writing code for you to be able to calculate things. So maybe I will stop sharing just because it's honestly distracting me a little bit here. Stop sharing. But basically the idea was getting a lot of people excited in the tech world is, hey, not only can this little robot do research for me, now it can actually do stuff for me. And if you think about it, that's like an agent, like a mortgage agent. It goes out and gets financing for you. An agent is just something that does something on your behalf. It doesn't just research things for you. It actually does things on your behalf. And the really exciting thing as it relates to it, where people are really getting excited, is to say, well, I could have my agent and now it's clicking around and it's doing all these things. But I think soon enough, my agent will actually be able to talk to your agent, right? So now that these little robots are actually doing things, maybe they can start interacting, right? And actually say, if I'm the agent who's actually looking up financing options for me, I can actually instead go talk to a TD quote unquote AI agent and actually have that conversation and say, hey, this is Tom, this is what he's about. Maybe the TD agent asks a question and then a little pop-up on my screen comes and says, hey, do you have this, a little bit more information here? And so now these interactions, again, are a lot more dynamic. So it's just so fascinating where we can go with this. I'm looking at my screen here. It's still kind of thinking, it's still going. It's starting to talk, looking at a Wawa page, a Remax page. Maybe I'll share again just so you can see it. This is probably as it relates to home prices, things like that. Where can I actually go and look at these things? And then look at this. It's actually going out and saying, hey, I'd like to book an appointment with a real estate agent in Toronto. And it's saying Toronto mortgage broker, contact, book appointment. And if you look here, there's this one here, Tridac. I'm actually not familiar with that firm, but there's also TD there. There's also a couple other brokers. So really kind of quite interesting. And I think there's an important point. We'll get back to it here in just a second. But before I get to it again too much, I do want to just quickly look at this ChatGPT article, which really dives in exactly what we're kind of seeing on our screen here live time. And what you can see is what it's saying, right? Bridging research and action together. So we just had this very simple example of being able to get financing for me, obviously very relevant as a mortgage broker. But you can see, hey, now it thinks and acts together, right? And then has a whole bunch of stuff. But I think examples do as good a job as any, right? Now you can say, hey, look at my calendar and brief me on upcoming client meetings based on recent news. Wow. Plan and buy ingredients to make me Japanese breakfast for floor. So not only can it give you that recipe, but actually go out, buy the ingredients, analyze the three competitors, and create a slide deck, right? So not just going out and doing it and you copy and paste it over. Again, if you saw earlier, you can actually start interacting with your, Google Docs. Here you can see this is a PowerPoint presentation and can actually go out and build it. So I just had a very small example, but I quickly wanted to jump over into this tab to say, what are all the things that could be possible, right? What are all these things these agents can do for you? And here's a travel agent looking up different flights. It's using Expedia, which is a bit ironic because Expedia is an agent. And so it's an agent using an agent. Maybe this is a good precursor. This is me thinking out loud here. I said at the beginning, it's like maybe there'll just be layers of these agents, right? There'll be an agent who does this, and then there'll be an agent above it that's managing other agents. And you can get this whole kind of chain of different agents, and, the possibilities really start to compound on themselves. So before I get too carried away, let's jump back over into my other tab here. So I go back into this other tab here, and literally I can see it. It's on this particular website, Fox Marin, and it's literally filling out the form, the contact me form on my behalf, right? So it's actually going through and doing it. So I don't know what's actually going to end up happening if I'm going to start having all these appointments with all these realtors later on. But again, you can actually see it's doing these things actually for me. So, it's just kind of mind blowing to see. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to quickly pause. I'm going to let it kind of finish doing its thing. And then we'll talk about, some of the implications, what we see, and as a final result, and maybe some of the implications. Okay, so I just finished up. I'll share my screen again here. And I apologize for anyone who's listening to this. This is a little bit more screen share heavy, but I'll do my best to kind of describe what I'm seeing here. But basically, I came back and right away it says, okay, based on this, your 200 combined income, 100%, 100K down payment, according to the guidelines and the GDS and TDS, very relevant, of course. Everyone listening obviously knows that's the right way to look at it. You can afford maybe 1 to 1.05 million, but also if you have only 100K down, your payments up to about $1 million will keep your monthly costs within the GDS range and take into account even property taxes, right? So it looked at property taxes for me. So it did all of that work, right? So it took my income, it looked at potential property taxes, it added in rough utilities, and it basically said, you're safe or so right around that $1 million level, right? So again, pretty interesting, right? It can do a lot of those calculations to determine those types of things. And then we can go through and it says, okay, well, based on that, we did a bunch of research. These are the neighborhoods that are interesting for you. Great. But as a next step, and this is the really exciting part, I thought, which is you can come in here and you can say, hey, opened up. It's like literally this agent said, hey, I opened up a calendar booking with this particular mortgage broker. I won't say their name. And you can choose a 30-minute slot on Monday. And your available times are this, this, and this. So it literally went on this mortgage broker's website, clicked around, found the booking page, said, hey, these are their available slots. And now it's presenting it back to me. It's just crazy. Same thing on the real estate. It went onto someone's website. It said, hey, they're looking for a buyer who specializes in climbing the property ladder specific to me. And hey, to finish the form, please take over and enter those types of things. And there's a little button on my screen that says take over. Let's just see what happens. Take over. You're about to control GPT's browser. Sure, I understand. And wow, so that browser that was kind of clicking around, I was seeing it there. Now it's opened it up. And that particular mortgage broker, again, for them, they're getting a lot of airtime here. Congratulations. But in any case, I can see exactly what they're talking about. I can see there's times and I can actually click in here and I can say, hey, I'd maybe like to take this time or that time and actually book it all the way through. So yeah, really quite interesting, quite mind-blowing in a lot of ways. And it just shows you, hey, maybe this could be the future as it relates to someone, hypothetical person living in a condo in Toronto, how they're actually going to go up the property ladder, what that search is going to look like in the future. So what does that mean? I mean, in terms of us as mortgage brokers, well, I think it means two things, right? I mean, two things people care about. One is, people look at this, say, is my job at risk? Is a game over here? And honestly, of course, the answer is no. I mean, we've heard of this story a million times. I always use the example, hey, probably when fax was just the way it was, and then everyone got email, people said, well, someone can just email their bank, or why do they need me, right? Why do they need me to go in and do it? And of course, there's still brokers here. And the reason is because still a housing decision is a massive, massive decision. And they need someone that they trust throughout that transaction. People don't trust machines. People still don't trust robots. They can go and click things for me. But when it comes to big decisions about my livelihood and my family's well being, I'm going to go to a person and a person that I trust. And that's always there. And that's what I think the role mortgage brokers have historically played, but will continue to play going forward, right? Is being that trusted person. I mean, I talked to one guy on this podcast a while ago and he said, something will go wrong. The early part, that's easy, book an appointment, whatever. Somewhere along the way, as you're really close to closing, something will go wrong. And you're not going to want to talk to the agent, ChatGPT agent at that point. You're going to want to talk to a person that can help you, right? So that's the value. And, we go on and on about that, but that's my high level thoughts. But the second thing I want to talk about is if this is the way that people are finding and doing this in the future, I think that us as mortgage brokers need to adapt to the way people are going to find us, right? I talked about this one gentleman who was just so happened to be what the agent found, right? As it was clicking around. And you can see it didn't give me one or two different options. It didn't give me 5 blue links. It did it for me. It said it went through and it clicked one by one and it found the one that it thought was best. And to be honest, I have no idea what that internal monologue or that internal thought process of the agent was, but there was one. And I think it's on us, anybody in any industry, to go in and understand that, right? Because if everyone in the future is going to be doing something like this, maybe not exactly like this, but something like this, it's not going to be the 10 blue links. It's not going to be the referral of a realtor. It's going to be this type of process. So how do we get in the mind of these agents? I think it's a very important question to ask. So those are my 2 big takeaways here. Of course, are agents, mortgage agents done? Is the thing changing forever? No, of course not. But the nature of it will change. And how we acquire customers, how we actually get our foot in the door is going to change. People are going to start here because guess what? They aren't just using their agent for mortgage financing. They're using it for everything. They're doing the Japanese recipe. They're doing whatever. Their agent is going to be like their, right-hand man, so to speak. And so you're just not going to think about it, right? You're going to say, hey, I need to buy a house, ask the agent. I need to get a recipe, ask the agent. So we need to get anybody who wants to be on that leading edge, get in the mind of those agents and understand how they're picking things. Because clearly, like I showed here, and this was not like a pre-baked, I don't even personally know the person who was selected by the agent, but they're just doing one option. And I don't know why or how or what it was that got them there, but I think it's on all of us to try and figure that out. So I think it's really interesting. I'll leave it at that. Agent mode, if you don't have the premium service, I would just pay the whatever, $20 a month, just to try it out, just to see it. It is pretty cool. It's exciting. I think it's just one of many things to come. So I hope this was interesting. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll see you next week.